So good morning, everyone. My name is Bin. I'm currently a final year PhD student at UCL CASA. And today I will show you a piece of research in my PhD research at CASA, which cooperates with my supervisor, Adam Thomas, and research mentor, Robin. So the title is Understanding Housing Affordability to Determine the Best Property Search Areas for Homeowners Moving Out of London. And my PhD research focused on understanding the spatial and the temporal patterns of the house price and the housing affordability in England. And this is one part of the affordability research. I will divide my talk into 5 parts. Now let's start with the introduction. As we all know, the UK has a housing crisis. And in recent years, the costing of buying a home has risen faster than wage. And this may cause a serious housing affordability issues for increasing people. And this issue is more serious in London. So that's why there are a lot of Londoners to move out of London. In terms of the housing affordability, the traditional way to measure it is use the ratio of the house price divided house income in a given areas, as you can see in these newspapers. But in reality, the housing affordability is even more complex. So it's kind of interplay of the house price, available income, household type, and location. And in this research, I will consider these 4 elements. As a geography, we know how matters the scale when we conduct analysis. And the reason why I choose local authority as analysis skills, there are 2 reasons. So the first one is I have explored house price per square meters variation in England at 4 geography skills. From local authority to individual levels. And the result shows that the house price per square meters is clustered at the local authority level between 2009 and 2016. What's more, in 2009, 53% of the house price variations exist between local authorities, and this increased to the 75% in 2009. What it means is during this period, the house price per square meters within the local authority are more similar, but the house price per square meters between the local authority are more different. The second reason why I want to conduct research on local authority level is because the housing delivery in England is conducted at the local authority level for over 100 years. So that's why I create a new approach to understanding the housing affordability, considering the property type, size, location, and price at the local authority level. In reality, the different households will facing different kind of affordabilities in the same areas. So that's why I use a simulation approach. I design a typical London homeowners, and then we can simulate how the housing will look like for this typical homeowners, and then we are able to have ideas where are the best property search areas for them to move out of London. We did have some exception of this typical household. So we assume that they already have enough extra money to pay for travel, home movings, and other renting costs, which they are not account within the transaction price. The whole idea of this affordable research is we want to have a better understanding of the residential housing affordability at the local authority levels. Once we understand this, we hope we can access and give better suggestions of the housing delivery at the local authority. So now let me introduce the research data set. So there are 2 parts of research data set I use in this research. So the first part is a new house price per square meter data set. It created based on the transaction price from the land registry price paid data, and we continue georeference borrow the georeference information from the OS data set. And then we add in the floor size information from the energy performance certification data set, so which is EPC data. So during this process, we are able to get a house price per square meter data set. And in this process, we are able to georeference 98% of the land registry price paid data. When we further add in the floor area information, the matching rate reduced to 92%. Before we use this data to conduct the analysis, we did have a data cleaning process. We tried our best to cleaning out some outliers, and this is the 7 criteria I critique during the data cleaning. I don't want to show to look at so details about what they are. Just give you ideas. There is a data cleaning process before we conduct the analysis. So once we go through the data cleaning, we will got over 4 million transactions in England, and this matching rate will reduce to 80%. The main reasons we drop 12% of the linking data is because the unreliable values from the total floor areas and the numbers of habitable rooms from the domestic EPC data set. And what this 8% means, it means the sales with full market housing values in land registry PPD between 2009 and 2016 in England. This new house price per square meter data set, in terms of the spatial coverage, it shows exactly the same as the original land registry price per data, which is fully covers all the regions, local authorities, and MSOA, and 99% of LS unit in England. So if you want to know more detail about how to create this geo-referenced house price per square meter data set, you can have a look at the CASA working paper 203. And on the right side is just show you ideas how this data set look like. The second part of the dataset is the community time data. So we get it from the travel time platform. Here I show you example is what you can do in this platform is you just set up a place where you start and you can set a community time you want. And then you can get the reachable areas for a given transport mode. And in my research, the community time to London is assessed by using listed site from each railway station in England, departing from 7 a.m. within 50, 30, 45, 60, 75, 90, 105, and 120 meters by all public transport modes. And this data is extracted in 2019. So before we extract the reachable areas from data form, I created an English railway station data because there is no spatial data set of railway station exists in England. The way I did it, I based on the OSVMD data set and considering the list other 6 data sets, and it's manually cleaned the data. As a result, I got over 2,000 railway stations, and you can see clearly how it looks like on the right side. 26% of them are within London. So once we have we use the railway station as what I show you, and we are able to get the reachable areas for a given community times for any given railway stations. Here is an example to show you in the Brighton stations. And for each local authority outside London, we choose the shortest community time as the community time to London. Now let me introduce the methodology part. So the methodology, divided into 3 parts. The first part, I created a series of the 3-level GISRUK curve model to estimate the house price per square meters at the local authority level between 2009 and 2016 for 4 different property types. Here, the 4 property types are detached, semi-detached, terrace, and flat. On the table 2 show you an example of the model for the detached property types. So in this model, we have 2 models. The model 1 is the spatial interaction model. What it means we assume each local authority in England are sharing the same trend. And the second one is the random slope model. We assume that the local authority share a different house price trend during the same period. And we use the likely ratio test to see which model performs best. Once we know which model performs best, kind of information like the figure I show here. So because during the GISRUK model, I already centered the time to 2009. And what it means the intercept we get is the estimate log of the house price per square meters for a given local authorities. And we transfer it to the next scales, and which we refer it as the local authority starting price. And it is the estimate house price per square meters in 2009. The second part of the methodology is define the typical household. Here, we use the median value of the transaction price in London in 2009 as the price which this type household would like to purchase a house. So the value is 500,000 pounds. And the third part, with the house price per square meters we estimate from the growth curve model, and also the property values we got from the typical household, we are able to estimate the new housing affordability index, which is the affordable total floor areas. The equation is used the property value divided the house price per square meters for a given property types in a given local authority, and then we will get the affordable property size. So let me show you some of the results of them. So first is the result of the model result. I will not show you all, introduce the detail of it, and I just highlight the important part. And you can see clearly for a given property type, the deviation for the model 2 is smaller than the model 1. And also we use the likelihood ratio test to show the model 2 is significantly bit better than the model 1. So we base on the model 2 for the different property types, and we are able to estimate the starting price for local authorities. And here is how it looks like. I just plotted as a one figure together. Each point is one local authority. Here I labeled all the local authority, which shows the estimated house price per square meters is over 4,000 pounds per meter square. And you can see clearly, these local authorities are the main regions to contribute to the big variance of the house price variation at the local authority level in England. So consider the typical household with 205,000 pounds, and we are able to estimate the affordable size for a given property type for each local authorities. So the spatial pattern is generally similar, but it's less different in detail. On the left side, I just show you one example for the terrace affordability size. And you can see it's the general pattern is in London, the people these people only can buy very small properties. Once it's move out, so the size is increased. There is one more interesting is if we compare the spatial patterns of this affordable size and compare with the commuting time to London map, you can see they didn't follow the same pattern. And it means in the same commuting time, we are able to have some potential most affordable local authority for you to get a larger property. So what I do first is at the left side, for each local authority, I have 4 affordable sites for each property type, and then I estimate what the maximum floor size. And then I plot this maximum affordable floor size with the community time, and you can see clearly as this graph shows. Here I label the top 1 local authority in each community time, which you can have the biggest maximum affordable property size. So once we label it in the map, you can see it's kind of clustered in 2 directions. So the first one direction is from the northeast, and the second one is from the east. So what if we go back to the figures I showed you before? What if we have look at the top 5 in each community time, and we can see how to look at in the map on the on the right side, which is the red color part. So it still say the same directions as what I showed you before, but there is a new direction occurs, which is the northeast. So now let's look at details of them. So for the northeast directions, you can see clearly it's follows 3 railway routines. The first one is from London to Birmingham. The second one is from London to Lancaster, and the third one is from London to Peterborough. Well, for the next 2 directions, from the northeast direction is kind of from London to these local authorities. Well, for the new direction occurs in terms of the northeast direction is London from the Ipswich. So these 3 directions is what we explored in this research. By searching directions, you can gain an actual biggest space for this typical London homeowners. And what's more, our field study will consider in other type of barriers. There are cash barriers, mortgage barriers, and multiple lender barriers. We will also explore the affordability change in terms of the property size over time. And I'm considering to take account the travel costs in the future study. So there is some relative research about this one. So if you are interested about the house price per square meter data set, we published a version in 2009, and you can download it now from the UK data service. So this covers over 5 million of transaction records. What's more, we are planning to annually publish latest linked data in the GLA London database. So there is one will launched in GLA database at the end of April or maybe early in the May. It's record over 80 million of the linked house price per square meter dataset, and you can use it for no commercial uses. There is one more thing I'm currently doing is I'm currently creating a Shiny app to show all the affordability research in my PhD research. There are two scenarios in my PhD research, but I didn't show it here. You can see here is a cash buyers and a mortgage buyers. And if you are interested in my research, you can have a look at them in this research blog. So the first articles is you can have ideas about how the multi-level and the girls curve model works. And the second one, the third one is the house price per square meter dataset. You can get this research blog link from my Twitter account as well. So that's all of them. Thanks for your listening.
Okay, there are some questions coming in. Stephen Clark is saying, thank you. A comment, because of COVID, people more likely to appreciate living space more for working from home and families together. So yes, that's absolutely valid. I don't know if you want to comment on Stephen's comment, Bin-Chi?
Yeah, this is a good point, but my research focuses on the period between 2009 and 2018. So it may be not exactly critical to suitable directly use the coronavirus pandemic part. And I personally feel currently, if we use land registry price paid data, it's still too early to understanding how the housing market look at in the pandemic, because there is a large registry delay, and we still need a couple months to see how the pandemic influenced the housing market and also the floor size in 2020. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think it will be very interesting to see how that develops, because certainly I know friends in London and in Edinburgh, where I'm based, people are fleeing the city centre for gardens, green space, and so on. Some people in Scotland moving a long way out of the city, some not quite so far from the city. But yeah, I think there'll be some very interesting patterns. Okay, some other comments. Lena Killian says, thanks for the talk, Bin. Apologies if I missed this. I'm curious how affordability is defined and if this is done regionally or for the whole country.
So this is done whole England at local authority level, and the housing affordability index design is for a given household with a given money, what kind of the estimate affordable housing size look like in these local authorities for a given property type. And so the affordability is just kind of property size. And you know, you can look at it deeper, but I didn't mention here. So there is standardized housing size in the UK. Let's say for one person, the standard housing size should be 37 meter squares. And you can base on this and go back to my spatial map to see which part is not affordable, because it's already didn't follow the standardized.
Did you, just out of interest, did you find any regional variations in house area? Obviously, possibly smaller in the inner city compared to the suburbs, but were there any patterns in terms of regions and cities where there are bigger houses versus smaller houses?
Yeah, there's some funding about this point, but it's not mentioned in this talk. But I will try my best to publish all the affordability fundings in my research blog or in CASA working papers. And if you are interested, you can keep an eye on it.
That sounds great. We look forward to these. Another question from Labib. Labib says, thank you for an excellent talk, with which I would certainly concur. I'm wondering, did you run the models at multiple scales? Did you consider the modifiable area unit problem as the data is aggregated and disaggregated at multiple spatial units? Can the big data help solve MOP?
Okay, so this is really good questions. This is also the reason why I use multi-level model, because it will systematically to handle the data at multiple scale together, rather than the traditional linear regression. And what's more, it also has some advantage. So when your sample size in a given unit is quite small, it has shrinking function to make sure the estimation result is more reliable than we only use sample size to run the regression. And why the people create multi-level is also it can be fixed problem of the MAUP. So if you want to know details, it's worthwhile to have a look at the first papers in my research log. So there are so details to introduce what is multi-level and how you can use multi-level to consider different scales together and how it can help you to understanding the scale effect influence the house price variation.
Okay, thank you for that. Patrick is saying, amazing work, Binchi. I had a quick question. Have you explored alternatives to using data from 2009 to define your average household?
There are a lot of reasons behind that. It's because once I clean the data, I estimate which time period is more valuable, which has the highest representative ability. And I have some estimate approach to choose this period from 2009 to 2016, because this period will have really the highest matching rate, and it will result in a more reliable result, and we can give maybe a strong conclusions. And the reason is I start with 2009 data is 2009, and everything will focus on this point. And I prefer this period because the interest rate is quite unique across period, and there is no Brexit, there is no pandemic. And this is just try to use the multi-level to have a new understanding of the house price and the housing affordability. And in terms of the household, so it's not average household, it's a kind of typical household. So the idea comes from simulation approach. So you can control something and you can see how it works in the complex world.